Hey all, this is Qesankh Maa Kheperu, and today I want to talk to you about how you are one with everything and try to present some proof to back this up. So let's get right into this. There's no joke where the Buddha goes up to the hot dog vendor and says, "Make me one with everything." Get it? So the idea behind being one with everything, you probably heard this in the New Age movement, occult practices. It's very esoteric. It's kind of the in thing to say. It's like, oh, you're one with everything, or be one with this, be one with that. But what does that really mean? The basis of it talks about in the very beginning, when you were created, you are not separate or apart from all that there is. It is only through coming into this fourth dimensional plane, which composes of 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time. And we've come here to experience the process from beginning, middle to end. Do we have the illusion of separatism or individuality? Because in the very beginning, there was only a singularity, and there was the one, which is consciousness, which is Nectar, God. And the first thought that Nectar had was the separation of 1 to 2. And when Nectar separated itself, God, Yahweh, however you want to refer to him, her, separated itself, it was able to look back upon itself and to understand that it existed, and then wanted to know more about its existence. And to do that, it had to have an experience. It had to interact with itself. So it created everything in the universe that we see around us. And the universe is not the end all and be all to all that there is. All right. And what I want you to keep in mind when you start thinking about how you're connected to everything, keep this saying in mind, because I think it's really pertinent to our discussion here, which is the one is the all and the all are the one. All right. So that is a basic law. That's how everything is done. And what you do to others, you really do to yourself, because we're all connected through the Ma'at principle. So Ma'at is truth, justice, and righteousness, oneness of all things. So let's take this, for example. Let's get into the idea of quantum mechanics, which looks at things on a very quantum level, right? And when they started doing experiments with subatomic particles like electrons, they looked and said, well, this electron can be in more than one place at a time. So the question then became where is it going? Is it going to a parallel universe? When what's happening to it? Further, as they went into more experiments, they realized that the observer, when the observer was looking at the particle, it influenced how the particle responded. So this is what you see today. When scientists are conducting tests, they try to take the human element out of it, such as in double-blind experiments, where if they're testing out a drug, they they don't let you know what the drug is, because your knowledge of the drug may taint the results. So this is how we know that existence, you cannot have existence without the observer, without the conscious observer. Because all things come into being because of consciousness. All right. So let's take, for example, what I had mentioned before, the subatomic particle, and how the particle can be in more than one place at a time. But let's look at it this way. Let's suppose that we have that particle, right? And that particle can move at infinite speeds, so quickly you would never even realize it. So this particle composes everything. All right. So it can compose one person, compose the makeup of one person, and then create another person, all from one particle moving at this infinite speed. And then from there, it moves on to create the universe, planets, suns, stars, Earth, with all of the cities and the trains and planes. And this particle is moving at such a fast rate that it seems to be in multiple places at the same time. Its speed is just unfathomable. You can't imagine how fast it's moving. So what appears to be objects and things that are separate from one another are really made from that one particle moving at this infinite speed to create everything. It's like the Flash, So take that, for example, and if you can understand that we're all made of these subatomic particles, or this subatomic particle, but we have the illusion that it's many subatomic particles, then it changes things a bit, because then you realize the same matter that I'm made of is the same matter that you're made of. You get what I'm saying? There's no separation in that. This starts to explain things like telekinesis, precognition. You know, it starts to get into the realm of teleportation and all that. So this is how you are one with everything through that one particle traveling to make up everything that there is in existence. All right. Everything that is in existence. Okay. But because we are trapped in a left brain linear thought process, we have the illusion that everything is separate. And in fact, that there is an outside world when everything is really inside, internal. Okay. So then we get into the realm of space and time. So I want to like give you a perfect example of this. Now we've all seen. Well, let's put it to you this way. We've all seen those science fiction shows where they have warp drive when you're traveling from one distance to another, right? And let me use this piece of paper. Now, in Star Trek, we have warp drive. In Star Wars, we have hyperspace, right? And the idea is here's the paper, that you are traveling at a distance between point A and point Z, right? That's the traditional linear way of thinking. Let me put it this way. Point A is here and point Z is here, okay? And that's warp drive or hyperspace. But the idea here is because everything is one, there's no, and that traveling of distances, traveling at the speed of light, could still take thousands of years to reach the nearest star. But if we think not in terms of linear, but that all is one, we think in terms of collapsing space and time and bending that and folding space-time to where you have it as one. So not only is there no separation in distances, but there's no separation in space and time. So everything is one, which is what's going on right now, because you have to understand that you, who are made of those particles, are not an individual that existing in one time frame, one space-time continuum, but you are a multidimensional being that exists in different dimensions, in different alternate universes simultaneously. There's no separation between this individual here that's existing in this this universe from another one existing in a parallel universe, because the principle of what you are is bending space-time so that it can move with infinite speed to these different parallel universes. We don't need hyperdrive or warp drive to travel to the distant star, because you are already there, because your consciousness, which is essentially who you are, has the principle of non-locality, meaning that you're not fixed in any one point in space and time. You're not located in one place versus the other. That's a linear thought process. So if you understand this example, try to make sure it shows up on the camera that I've given you, to where NASA and modern scientists are trying to figure out how to get us the next solar system using left brain linear process of rockets and traveling great distances, whereas the right brain will say, let's collapse space and time because they're all are one anyway, and that we're already there. You know what I mean? And this is also where we get the idea of wormholes. Some postulate that a wormhole is really comes from a black hole, because here's the principle of how that works. Because a black hole is when, if you were to travel to a black hole, the first thing that would happen when you reach the event horizon is you would be spaghettified. That means your legs and your arms would be stretched. And an interesting thing that we noticed was that at the event horizon, the information of who you are, kind of like zeros and ones, gets captured in that event horizon. Now, as you go into the black hole, again, many postulate that when you come out, it's really a wormhole and you're coming out to an alternate parallel universe. But as you go into that black hole, space-time collapses upon itself, and Einstein's theory of relativity no longer applies. In fact, it breaks down. So we need a new science to apply there. All right. Now, going back to the event horizon, where it captures the data about who you are, we can theorize and say that's very similar to the Akashic records, because the Akashic records has everything that on all information in life. So something to think about that, because when you get to that black hole, you get down there, we consider that singularity. All right. So that is when you can either be crushed or, again, we don't know because the laws of physics as we know it break down. All right. The other thing that we get into, which is a very interesting thing when we start thinking nonlinear, is that we get into causality. So what causes events to happen? Now, if you're, again, thinking to the left brain and you see somebody with a cut, you're tending to put some alcohol on a bandage, but you're only addressing the effects and not the cause, which is the problem with Western society, is that we don't look at the indirect causes to things. And this is where we get back into Cartesian logic, which always looks at a one-to-one correlation between things. You know, we can say that your digestive problems or your stomach problems are a cause of not eating right, but we're not looking at the fact that your stress, your mind will put that stress into different areas of the body, typically the abdominal, your intestines. So that could be a psychosomatic issue. But we don't address things that way because we're always looking for that one-to-one correlation of how things affect each other. You know what I mean? So in treating things in Western medicine, we tend to always want to treat, as I said before, the causes and not the real underlining, the effects and not the real underlining cause, which is going and looking in Western society as to the judicial system and to how society is structured as a whole. We see that society is collapsing simply because we see individuals who commit crimes in our society who have divergent behavior as these criminals or those addicted to drugs, as just low lives of society, when we don't want to address the cause of their behavior. We're only looking at the effects and we're not looking at the cause, meaning that there's something that they're not getting enough fulfilled. So how do we fill that gap in their lives? Well, everything has to have a balance in life. Take, for example, ancient cultures who knew that lived in the, we can say the nations, the tribal societies, where they knew that that for the society to thrive, we had to pair bond, and had to have mates, right? And this was a very important aspect. And for society that doesn't work to ensure that the next generation and each generation after that procreates is a society that will be doomed. So what do? We had the elders or the parents, which would make sure and give their blessings to a marriage, or to make sure if they had a son or daughter that they would speak to the next family and arrange a marriage. They didn't leave anything to chance, because therefore you could have individuals who don't find a mate, and that would end that family lineage. Or, for example, in many societies where men will go off to war and there was a lot of deaths among the male population, the men that were left had to engage in polygamy, have more than one wives, because there was a shortage of men. And this is more dynamic right brain thinking. So we know how to solve problems in society by looking at it and thinking more fluidly and dynamically instead of thinking in terms of concrete. Another thing we want to touch on is we understand that left brain Western culture tends to see things in the concrete, and it has trouble looking at abstract or conceptual thinking, or what I call is analogical thinking, looking at things and how they're analogous to other things. This is where you start to get into the higher mind and higher consciousness, where you will actually see things more than what they are, because most of the things, the physical things around us, are merely symbols. It's a holographic projection. Symbols of what's going on in your mind. They don't actually represent the thing itself. I know that's hard to come to grips with, but you're projecting outward all of your belief systems. All right. So this is the idea of how all things are one. And if you understand that, then you know that we are not the physical body, that we are consciousness, that we are the observer, as the ancient Egyptians called it, and that we are merely having an experience, a holographic experience, so that we can interact with it and gain experience and store that experience so that God, Nectar, can understand itself and its infinite potential more. In the same way the black hole, the event horizon, stores that information, is the same way as your oversoul. That's the term we use. The oversoul is like the secret agent collecting information on your life experience, so that when you die and pass on, on, you will go before Tahuti and you will look at your past life and decide how you're going to live your future life by setting it up so you can either continue with the issues that you left off or progress to new issues because you've surpassed the old issues and overcome those. That is what it's all about. And you take turns in experiencing things. One lifetime you're the father, another lifetime you're the son. So, and remember, it's all happening simultaneously. So there's not a linear life, death thing going on. It's all happening at the same time because we know that space-time collapses and forms that singularity where everything is one. All right. So I hope I made this clear and I made it too convoluted and everything and giving you the best examples so you can see. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and comment in the comment box. If you like this video, like it. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. This is Qesankh Maa Kheperu, and that's all for now.